That thumbnail is precious. Hey, good morning. It's actually before noon, and I'm getting on here and recording our video for today. I'm back in the corner of my room because somebody put baby in the corner, and it's me. I did it to myself. So, um, hmm, no, worm is not misspelled on my shirt. If you think so, you need to go do some internet research on uh, magical, mythical creatures and look up worm, WYRM. The more you know. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, it's Thursday, which means I had office hours this morning. I'm hoping as we go that we might try out some live chats during my office hours, but I don't know. Sometimes that might be nice to check in, but I also feel like you guys should be able to access stuff when it's convenient for you as well, unless the district comes out with a set schedule. So we'll see how that goes. We would do it through Teams most likely because that's the most secure um, video conferencing thing that we have for the district. So there's that. I don't know how that would go. That might be crazy though. Today's tea is chai because it's raining outside. And when it's cold and rainy and stuff, I usually like to have a chai tea. I don't put cream into my chai tea. I mean, you can get those that have like milk, their milk in them or whatever. And I get those when I go out and get a chai tea. It's usually a chai latte actually. But I just drink straight chai tea at home. So it has a little bit of sweetener in it, but it's great. Mmm. Tea company should start paying me for this content. Or mug companies. Or t shirt companies. Or all of the above. All right. So, um, what else? Okay. So I finished watching some shows on TV. Have I been reading as much as I would like to? No. I don't know. My brain has been all over the place. So I'm reading. Um, I'll get back to my shows in a minute. Don't let me forget. Just remind me. Oh, wait, you can't do that. Um, so I'm reading James and the Giant Peach with my son, and it is delightful because I get to do all these different voices, and he's really into it because he doesn't normally like to read chapter books. He's at that age where he's turning 8, and so it's like pivotal for him to get kind of hooked on chapter books. I'm hoping I can help him with that transition and just see how fun it can be when you can like imagine all these voices and characters and stuff. So hoping that clicks for him. But it's fun to reread it. I'm still reading The Power. Again, this is the one I was telling you I was kind of struggling with because it has all these different characters in it. So I still am. But that's okay. Making some progress, not a ton since last time I talked about it, because I'm just having a hard time sitting down and taking time to do it with all my grad school reading I have to do. When your professor assigns you like 60 pages of reading from a bunch of different scholarly articles and textbooks, your time kind of gets taken up with that. So in the evenings, I tend to be working on that and discussion boards. So I haven't had a lot of time to read things for my own benefit. And usually by the time I'm done with that, my brain is kind of burned out. And so then I want to watch TV of some type. And I do streaming TV. I don't really watch live TV. I don't know how many people do that anymore, but I haven't paid for like a full cable subscription. I don't think as an adult, like not since I was first married. For like the first couple of years we paid, I think, for cable TV before streaming came along. But my husband and I were some of the first people with Netflix when it came out. That was back when you would get a certain number of DVDs in the mail, and then they eventually got Blu-ray discs, and they would send them to you, and you'd have to send them back, and that's how you rented them. But we also were big into renting from Hastings, which was a chain of video rental, but they also sold CDs for music and books. And I miss Hastings. Hastings was awesome. I used to go there and browse because they'd also have used books and used movies. So they'd have new and used, and I could get all kinds of stuff. And then they had like super nerdy stuff, like all the novelty things for all the popular TVs and movies. So I kind of miss that stuff. So we've been on Netflix for a long time, and then it transitioned to streaming. So we got rid of the DVD service, mail-in stuff, because we found that those would just sit at our house and we'd forget about them because we were looking at the streaming. It's interesting to see how it's changed and how there's like not as much stuff available on there as there used to be. So on Netflix, I just finished watching Tiger King. I finally got into that little obsession that so many people have. Reminds me a lot of Making of a Murderer, that series that Netflix had. Kind of reminds me of that, where each episode you're like not sure which side you agree with or see eye to eye with, but they're definitely a lot more bizarre, the people on that show. So that one's interesting. It does have a lot of language and content issues, so I would just warn you about that. But I did finish that, so now I get all the Carol Baskins references that are online. So that's nice. I got to keep up with the times. What else? I finished The Expanse, which is what I get through Amazon Prime. So Amazon Prime we kind of had for the shipping stuff at first, and there was some content things like we wanted to be able to watch some of their streaming stuff, but their original content is actually, some of them are pretty good. I watched The Man in the High Castle on there. I didn't really like the ending of that series. To me, it seemed a bit rushed and I don't know, a little bit predictable, but I really liked it. That one is based off of a science fiction book of the same name, which was, I haven't read it, but the series expanded the idea. And that one was this idea, the basic idea is that it's a world where the Nazis and Japan won World War II. And it's not just as simple as that. It's not like an alternate history, which is one aspect of science fiction, but they also added in this layer of science fiction about alternative realities and parallel universes. And so I think it's much more complex than what some people think it is going into it. So to me, that's why I really like The Man in the High Castle. And it has a lot of political stuff. It is very violent, has a lot of shooting and killing, a lot of political intrigue, a lot of people rebelling against this system. Anyway, it was a pretty good show. The Expanse, though, that I finished most recently, that was the newest season that came out, was the 4th season, and it's definitely set up to have another season. So I'm really excited for when they finally do that. I'll probably have to wait a year or two for that. Who knows? I don't know where they are in production. I haven't looked it up yet to know what that was. So that one is like just an awesome science fiction. It takes place in our universe, and there's really like 3 countries in the universe, I guess. There's the UN, the UNN, I think is what they're called. But that's made up of all of Earth and the moon that they call Luna. And that's like one country. And then there's Mars. People have colonized Mars and have these like bubbles, surface, little buildings on the surface of Mars that are like bubbles that they live in, and they're trying to do some terraforming. So as well, so they're exploring science that way. But Mars, no surprise. I think I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos very briefly. But Mars is the planet that's all about war, and they've had these tense relationships with Earth and the moon and everything. And so, but that's what their culture is focused on, is defense and war, and they have really high tech stuff because of that. That's what their economy really runs off of, is this war thing. Then I guess the third country or place is the belt, and the people that live there are called belters. It's the asteroid belt, and they do a lot of mining out there. People living in very low gravity environments. So, of course, their bodies can grow a little bit differently, just depends where they lived. Um, and there's like lots of other, some of them are moons. And anyway, there's all these different places they're trying to populate and create these like livable environments for people. And it's definitely one of those where the Belters feel like they are taken advantage of by Earth, the Moon, and Mars. That they're the ones getting all these resources and providing them to these other places, but they're treated like scum. They're not respected. They're seen as culturally backwards. Um, and so that's really cool. And then there's also a rebellion faction, the OPA, that is like really proud of their heritage as Belters, and they're trying to actually kind of overthrow the system and the power and control that Mars and Earth have. So it's really cool that way as far as like some of that political intrigue. It does have language issues, so lots of F bombs, which is one reason it has the mature rating, and also some sex stuff in it. So pretty typical of those things. But it was a fun one. It reminded me a lot, the feeling of it, a little bit of Firefly, which is a very one of my favorite sci-fi programs that got canceled way too early, and then they made a movie to try to make it up for to fans. But if you've never watched Firefly either, it's kind of like a western out in space. So what I really like about um, both shows is that it doesn't emphasize so much like alien life forms. I mean, there aren't like, it's not like Star Wars or Star Trek where there's like all these different like bizarre humanoid creatures. So for me, that was something that's appealing to with the Expanse, is it seemed much more realistic. Like I could see this actually happening, or at least some aspects. It gets into some weird stuff eventually in the series, but some people I know aren't into sci-fi because they don't like all the different creatures and stuff. They just like very realistic things. So that's why I think some people would like it. Kind of like the people that like the movie The Martian or the book The Martian. Very realistic um, in the early stages of colonization of Mars. So anyway, that's my TV watching. And then there's the cake. Yesterday I shared too, I was starting work on my son's birthday cake. His birthday is on Monday. And he keeps reminding me, he's like giving me the countdown of how many days are left. Yeah, he's that kid. So yesterday, what did I get done? I did the brownie layer, so that's on the bottom. I got one of the ice cream layers done. It's really thin. And then on top of that, I did Oreo cookies. And then last night, the very last one I did was the layer of fudge. So then I put in the freezer between each layer of the cold, melty stuff, so it could solidify. And so today I've got to finish 2 more layers of ice cream and probably another layer of Oreos and fudge. I'm thinking between each ice cream layer is going to be an Oreo and fudge layer. He's spoiled. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. So I hope it turns out. It probably won't look that great, but I think it will taste good. And really, taste is what matters. I also am hoping to make something with my sourdough starter today or tomorrow. I've been working on that for a while, probably longer than I should, but it's because it's like a living organism and you have to feed it and keep it going, and it has to have the right balance. And I think I messed up a little bit like a few days ago and rushed it, and it kind of killed the activization, yeah, of um, the sourdough, like the living being in there, I guess how you call it. It wasn't as active. It didn't have as many bubbles. It wasn't as airy and light, which really shows that it's active and alive, and that it will actually act as a leavener in what you bake. And so I had to kind of like let it. I fed it and like let it just sit with the lid ajar and let it go. And yesterday it looked a lot better. So today I'm hoping I can take off some discard, which is you take out half of it and you can make something with that or just throw it away, and then you feed it. So there's a whole science to it and stuff. It's really kind of cool. But if your family runs out of yeast for baking, or even baking powder or baking soda, and you still want to bake breads and stuff, do a sourdough starter. All you need is flour and water and like a jar container to put it in, and something to loosely cover it with. Like you can use like a cloth and a rubber band, or a paper towel and a rubber band. Um, so it's pretty easy. And I bet if you saved an old jar and washed it out really well, you could use that. Um, so there's a tip, survival tip from Mrs. Thomas, because I know the stores are out of yeast. Like I've looked and they've been out for weeks. Um, so I know families might be running low on that stuff. Okay, so what have I been doing as far as class goes, as far as your classes? 10th graders, tomorrow is the deadline for discussions to get credit. So tomorrow I'm going to look at your discussions and regrade those for the final time. And tomorrow is the last date really for any makeups or redos for all my classes. I just want to kind of be done with the official stuff that I graded under the old system before we get to the new system, which who knows what that's going to look like. So for 10th graders, that big deadline's tomorrow. AP kids, most of you have turned in the stuff you were missing already. If you haven't, get that to me before tomorrow or by tomorrow. AP, about 40-ish% of you did the Gandhi timed right, which is awesome. Much better turnout than the other stuff that I've been putting out there so far. I've read through 7 of them so far, so I have about 16 more to go. So I'm going to be reading those this afternoon and tomorrow morning after I answer all my emails. And I'm leaving you specific feedback. Like I'm talking chunks of paragraphs, unless you didn't follow the assignment correctly. You're supposed to write an essay, not do Space Cat, write an essay. I thought that was pretty clear. So I've been leaving chunks, like entire paragraphs of feedback specifically to you, what you did well, what I would improve on. I'm also taking separately some notes of what I've noticed overall as trends, like more than one student doing it. And these are criticisms and kudos. So criticisms, things that we need to work on and improve. Kudos are things that you guys are doing well that I noticed. I'm like, I just want to call that out and say, yes, this is what you need to do. So I'm hoping to get all those done Friday or this weekend. Balancing that with my grad school class is the key. And then Monday, I'm hoping to release a video of me going over that feedback that's general that I think would help everyone, even if they didn't write the Gandhi piece. That will go over like what I would improve on. Now, some of you may have written that before my video on that I did just 2 days ago? No, yesterday. It was yesterday. Yesterday morning's video that I did about writing rhetorical analysis, the chill out video. So some of you may have written yours and submitted it before watching that. So for some of you, it might be a repeat of that video because I saw some of the stuff in your writing so far that I directly talked about in Wednesday's morning video, the chill out video. Like things about diction, tying things back to purpose and audience and all that. And then how do we write about the appeals and tone? So that's where I am on grading work and just my process. Just so you guys know, my emails, yesterday I replied to emails, even though I didn't have office hours to be available. I still got up and answered some emails and then continued. Yesterday I was pretty busy. I was from like 7:30 in the morning until I did my other video at like 2:00 in the afternoon. And that's when I finally ate breakfast. I like started working and like just kept going, and I had meetings and all that. So it's not like I'm just sitting around drinking tea all day. So been busy with that. My answering emails, it depends on the question that I have and that people are asking about. And then the grading I have to do, it's kind of random grading right now, which is hard. It takes a lot longer because my brain has to go to like different places. And then when I'm on the computer, I have to go to different assignments in the grade book on Skyward to grade those. It's not as simple. I have to go find the right class period. Then I have to go find the old assignment. And then I have to go grade it and think about what you did. So just know that that's a process. I'm answering emails depending. I find that Mondays I get a lot over the weekend of emails. So Monday is pretty heavy with answering emails. Like I usually spend a couple hours answering emails and deleting junk mail out and all that stuff and making sure I've replied to everyone. So um, Mondays are pretty busy for that as far as what I'm doing in the morning while I'm available for office hours. It's kind of weird to say office hours because it's not like I'm live for you to come in and see me yet. But that is when I'm replying to emails. So if you email me between 8 and 11, you're probably going to get a response that same day, like within minutes. Whereas if you email me after 11, you're probably not going to get a response until the next day. I do officially get 24 to 48 hours to reply, but I usually don't like it to build up because then it's just overwhelming and depressing to have that many emails to go through. So I prefer just to answer them right away. What else? Okay, Tiger King, cake, it's raining. Got it. Got the three major things I was going to talk about. You see this back here, though? Did I talk about this? I don't think I talked about this. I realized when I moved to Washington and my daughter went to high school and she lettered in orchestra. So this is my letter from high school. I didn't get a jacket or a cardigan. I probably should have gotten the cardigan. Would have been more my deal. But this is from my school. Yes, back in '97. It's when I graduated. But I got my letter in orchestra, which really just means you were in it all those years. And varsity orchestra because we had a JV orchestra and a varsity orchestra because we had so many kids in the program. I mean, my high school just had a ton. So lettered in that. Well, when I moved to Washington, I found out that here it's really weird. There's letters, but they don't give you one of those. Like I had that in my violin case for my whole senior year and since then. And then I just took it out when I gave my daughter one of my violins. I have my other one still, but I put it there because my plan was to do something with it, like frame it or do something, or put it in a scrapbook, whatever. But here in Washington, they don't do that unless you like go to a store to buy the jacket or the cardigan, whatever that is. And I was kind of disappointed because I was like, well, then what's the point of lettering? You don't even have like the letter to show off that's your school colors. It's the letter for your school. So like Kentwood, if you've seen people at Kentwood with them, I believe it's a K and a W. Or it's just the K. No, maybe it's just the K with our colors. I think it's just the K with our colors. Some schools will do two letters like overlapping each other if they have a complicated name or it's two words, but I guess technically ours is one word. Anyway, so you usually get those and the school just buys them and gives them to you. Well, I found out in Washington they don't do that. I don't know if it's the expense of it or what. So then her school in Enumclaw was like, well, we can give them we have a thing we can give them if you want it. And it's just like it's made out of clear plastic and it has like the engraving on it about earning your letter at Enumclaw. And that just sits in her room on a shelf. And I was like, it doesn't even have their school colors. It's not an actual letter. I'm like, how is that any cheaper than just getting a letter? But I guess you just go to the place where you order the jacket from and you just tell them you want your letter. I don't know. And then I guess your activities director just lets them know that it's legit. I don't know. I guess no one really gets them anymore. As part of their argument is that they found that a lot of kids don't even get the jackets anymore. So why go to the expense? But I'm like, that's one of those traditions that's kind of like, it's going to go away if you just quit giving them out completely. I mean, how many kids do we see walking around Kentwood with a Letterman's jacket? Not very many. And I think part of it's because you don't even show them what it would be like. That kids don't even know what a letter is. Like I had to show my daughter mine so she'd understand the concept. Anyway, that's what that is. Those are my extra keys in here. Anyway, I think that's it for today. It's kind of a lazy, cold Thursday. We got to do my 14,000 things to be happy about. Oh, I was going to share a word of the day. An SAT word of the day. We haven't done that in a few days. So I want to be better at that. So I'm just going to do it on my phone like I have been. Just scroll and stop. Um, postulate. Postulate is our word of the day. Postulate. It's a verb. It's something you do. Okay. And it is to assert, not insert, assert. Um, so, like when you claim something to be true or you insist that it's true, you would assert that, and that would be postulating. You could say postulated, past tense, if you wanted to. So the sentence here says the literary critic postulates that romanticism and naturalism are actually interconnected. So it's really you're asserting or arguing something to be true, usually. So you postulate. Um, so try to use that in your writing, especially my AP kids. When you're talking about rhetorical analysis, we're going to have writers who are uh, postulating all over the place. So, yeah, word of the day, postulate. I also like the word pragmatic. There's lots of great words out there. All right, 14,000 things to be happy about. Let's hope we strike it rich today with this, rich in happiness. Today's thing, let's see. I'm going to go toward the bottom, very bottom. Ragged rain clouds scudding over Long Island Sound. Now, if you've never been to Long Island Sound, just replace that with the Puget Sound. And then a shout out for my AP kids. You know, you got Gatsby. I could think of that. Some rain clouds scudding over there. Gatsby trying to find the stars among them, reaching his hand out toward the green light. Oh, yeah, I'm going back to that. I've been to Long Island a couple of times just because my sister's family had a house out there at one point. But it's been a long, long time, like over 20 years, I think, since I've been out there. So, beautiful out there on the Sound. I was out on Montauk, which is at the very end of Long Island. It's called the End, actually. That's like the nickname. So, been out there. So, I guess I can relate to that. I don't remember seeing lots of clouds like that or storm clouds, but it's probably the time of year I went, like in the summer. So it's not as many clouds, I guess. I don't know. All right. So how are things going to look? So the final thing I will leave you with is tomorrow I'll have another video. I'm hoping the district comes up with an MOU. That's a memorandum of understanding between the district and the teachers union to decide what is it that teachers are going to be required to do or can do, which should give you guys some answers as far as like what work is required, how does that going to work with as far as your grades and the semester, and how does that work with what the state superintendent said about grading, because it has to work in his framework. So I'm hoping the memorandum of understanding gets figured out tomorrow. If not, it might not be till Monday that we start hearing that and what I can and can't do or what's required of me going forward. So just know that that's where it's frustrating for a lot of your teachers, is we're kind of stuck in between the two, and we definitely want to do what's best for you guys, but we also don't want to start doing a bunch of stuff that our employer says we can't do or should not do. And so we have to do that. We have to follow through with that. Some teachers are assigning extra work, supplemental work, just like I've been doing, especially with AP. Core 10 kids, we've been focusing on making sure you guys are caught up and that you don't have missing work, and that your grade is the best it can be going into this next phase. So I've separated between the two classes on my focus. AP, because you guys have that deadline for the testing, my focus has been on doing everything I can without being able to grade things, to get you prepared for that exam and provide you with resources. Core 10 kids, it's been let's get you guys caught up and ready for next phase. So I just want you guys to understand the logic behind it. And each teacher is different on what they are doing. Um, so just be patient with them and understanding that it's going to be different. I know some teachers are doing some Teams meetings. So um, good for them because they're a lot braver than I am. I don't really want to start doing that until I have more direction from the district on some stuff. Um, what else? I think that's, oh, I think that's almost it, except that I've been playing Animal Crossing. So if you're playing Animal Crossing, I hope you're getting good prices for your turnips. And I'm not as far as some people because I was a few weeks after it was released that I bought the game. And so I've been playing that. So that's my other thing I've been doing. And my character's name is Morrigan. I think I maybe mentioned that briefly when I wore my shirt with the 3 crows on it. Um, anyway, so I'm playing Animal Crossing. I try to check in on that every day, but not spend too much time on it. So make sure you find something that you love to do like that, that is kind of that mindless entertainment. That's always good, but don't do too much of that. You also want to be able to think and do things. So I found a really cool list online where somebody had the list for them to do every day. It wasn't this exhaustive list, it was like ideas. So one was like to do something kind for somebody else. Another one was to learn something new. Another one was to do something that you enjoy. And so they had like all these things that were just kind of like to keep your mental health positive and to also keep you from falling into negative routines on that stuff. So um, that's kind of what I would suggest is make sure that you take care of yourself, do as much as you can with your different classes. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Um, maybe I'll plan something cool for Friday. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have any ideas, but I can come up with some ideas. So may the force be with you. Have a great Thursday.